And welcome back to Picks on Politics, everybody. Joining me now, New York State Senator representing parts of Queens, Jessica Ramos. And Ms. Ramos, thank you for being here for your first appearance on Picks on Politics. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I want to begin with the mayor's trip to Latin America right now. He's returning today with the mission of advising migrants that there is no more room in New York City. What do you make of the actual trip to these countries?
Well, they are beautiful countries. I'm Colombian American. However, I do think that it's a waste of time and a waste of resources at a time when we're talking about school budget cuts, about hospital cuts. So I think there's going to be questions about how this trip was paid for, but ultimately, I just don't think the mayor's going to be able to convince anybody who's trying to save their family to actually turn around and go back when they're trying to come to the United States seeking a better future. You
know, you came out strongly against the chief advisor to Mayor Adams when she said right here on this very show that the federal government should close the borders. Now, the mayor came out and clarified those remarks saying that the city's position of the borders should remain open. What is your stance on border control?
Well, I think there's a management crisis here in the city for sure with the migrants that are arriving, and we do need the federal government to step up a lot more in order to create a comprehensive immigration system that actually works. My criticism at the city municipal level is that instead of throwing our hands up in the air, we actually manage the situation and create order where there isn't any. There should have been a registry of the migrants who are arriving so we know who they are, where they're staying, when their immigration court date is, whether they have an attorney. You know, what makes the city of New York a quote-unquote sanctuary state is actually Executive Order 41 that was signed by Mayor Bloomberg that says that the city can't share immigrants' information with the federal government. And that could have been used to our advantage so that we can actually help these folks establish their lives here in New York.
This legal battle over the right to shelter is certainly heating up, right? It's in the court system right now. A lot of talk about who right to shelter should apply for, whether it's homeless population or asylum or migrants coming here to the city. If it were to change, the legal aid says that homelessness crisis could get a lot worse on the streets of New York City. What do you make of the right to shelter law and who it should apply to?
I don't think that we should ever be in a situation where we pit any group of New Yorkers against each other. I think that we should long have taken our housing affordability crisis seriously. I think if we actually focused on a housing first policy that puts New Yorkers in supportive and permanent housing that they need, then perhaps the shelters would be freed up for the migrants. But ultimately, it's the affordability crisis that we've been living now for a few decades.
Right, but we're here,
and
right?
Needing
we're in this situation, so what is your stance on whether or not right to shelter should change or should it remain as is?
I don't think that it should change. Right to shelter is protecting a human right of people to be sheltered, especially for those who are being brought here against their will. Let's not forget that Governor Abbott in Texas put these migrants on a bus, didn't even necessarily tell them where they're going. It's not that they're coming here to New York specifically by choice even. But I do think that especially in lieu of winter, we do have a responsibility to keep any human being off the street.
And without it changing, it's obviously this financial burden, right, to New York City, the 5% cuts. Where do you see the financial issues in these cuts if right to shelter stays as is?
Well, I have a lot of questions about how the budget is being mismanaged at the city level, to be honest with you. I mean, we've seen a lot of cronyism. There's all sorts of questions about people's inflated salaries. But ultimately, I don't think it's right to then adhere ourselves to an austerity budget that takes funding away from our schools, our hospitals, and other places where we actually need them to step up right now.
So that's on the city level. There's been a lot of talk about Albany stepping in to help, which is where you spend a lot of your time, right, in Albany. How can the state get involved?
Well, look, I've always been a fan of taxing billionaires. I always say that in New York, we're never going to have more millionaires unless we have fewer billionaires. They should be paying the same rate of taxes as we do. And they're not right now. I actually carry a mark-to-market tax that places a tax on unrealized capital gains here in New York that would give us $25 billion within its first year. That's money that could help with this crisis. That's money that can go towards universal child care. There is still so much, right, that we need to be able to provide working families so they can thrive.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk looking ahead, right, to the mayor's race and whether or not the mayor is doing a good enough job, whether or not there's rumors of who's going to run against him. Your name has been floated a lot in reports that you will run against Mayor Adams. Will you run against the mayor?
Well, I think someone should. That's what I'm here to say.
But will it be you?
And I don't know yet. There's still some time to decide and figure out, what that infrastructure would look like. Running for mayor in the city of New York is not easy. Being mayor is not easy. But the truth is that we're in a serious management crisis, and I do think that New Yorkers are owed an honest debate about how we're spending our taxpayer dollars and about having a mayor that's responsible and actually takes our challenges head on, just like every other New Yorker, instead of calling it quits and going down past the border.
It's not a definitive yes, you are going to run, but you're open to the idea and looking at the options.
I'm open to the idea. Right now, I'm running for re-election in 2024 because state senators run every 2 years. So like I said, there's still some time. I do think that someone should primary the mayor. We owe New Yorkers that debate, and hopefully we'll be better for it.
Do you want to ever be mayor?
I think that's every New York City kid's dream.
There you go. All right, State Senator Jessica Ramos, appreciate you being here for your first appearance.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. And up next.